soon after I started quilting, I was introduced to the rotary cutter, and it dramatically changed my entire world. It's changed the quilting industry for almost every quilter that is out there today. Westalee Design, when they designed the ruler foot, they dramatically have changed that way quilters are quilting. Long armers have had rulers for a long time, but our domestic quilters were at a disadvantage. We've never had those amazing products that could advance our skills. I have so many people say that I can't free motion, that I don't know how to do it, that I'm no good at it. Ruler work is not free motion, it's guided motion. I already know where I'm going, and all I have to focus on is just keeping the foot attached to the ruler until I'm at the end of the line. So it's really a big advancement, helping people to make their quilts as beautiful as they want and really changing the level of skill that our domestic quilters are going to see.
Are you ready to take your quilting to the next level? Whether you're just starting or looking for fresh inspiration, the Elevate Box Club is designed just for you. As one of our club members, you'll receive a quarterly box packed with exclusive tools, patterns, and fabric to bring your projects to life. We host live classes every month, plus recorded lessons available anytime on our Sew Study University. Join us every Thursday at 10 a.m. for live inspiration on YouTube. We have a club for everyone. Choose from our Ruler Work Club, our Pattern Only Club, or the Elevate Box Club. Want it all? We also have a Get It All Club, combining ruler work and embroidery collections. Whatever your style and no matter your skill level, the Elevate Box Club is here to help elevate your creativity. We never stop learning together.
Good morning, everyone. It's Stacy with Sew Steady, and we've got Donelle back. I know a couple of people were already commenting they're so excited to see you today, Donelle.
Oh, that's great. I've missed everyone.
We're excited to have her join us today, too. So, Donelle, I like to call her the queen of ruler work for beginners, but she does such an amazing job giving all of the tips and the tricks to get started with quilting with templates. And so today, she's going to be doing that, but she's going to be doing it on one of the bonus panels that we have in the Arrow class series. And I kind of think that this is somewhat of a simple design. What do you think, Donelle?
It is. And the thing is, when you look at it and you start dissecting it, you'll feel the same way about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited because not only is Donelle going to be going through those basics of, how to do quilting with rulers, which I know we have a lot of our regulars here, so they may not need that, but there may be some people that are just getting started. So we got to do that the first Thursday of every month. But she's also going to be diving into some of those tools that are inside of our Elevate Club box. So including like the decorative thread ruler foot that we included this quarter. She's going to be using some of the decorative thread that we got from Wonderful that's included in that box this quarter. And then you are going to use the Wonderful thread, right? I think
yes,
you
ma'am.
are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she's going to be using some of those bonus designs that are part of the embroidery collection that was included in that box as well. So I'm going to let you get started and show them all of those amazing things and how to get started with ruler work. So thank you so much, Donelle.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. And this is going to be fun today. We're going to take a quick ride through what it takes to get going with ruler work, because we do have another one on the university called Let's Get Started that you can go back and get some refresher information, or if it's your first time, then you can just get the basics all in that class. But first we need a nice flat surface. Now I'm going to take my mat off. It hardly ever comes off of my table. I use it all the time. This is called our grid glider, but I want to remove that so that I can show you our nice flat surface, and that is our Sew Steady table. Now, when you look through here, you can see, because it's nice and clear, I've got some other things underneath here too. That's part of our decorative threads that came with the box this time. And so obviously there's a loose button trolling underneath there. But down here on the end, I have this nice big drawer that holds all my extra feet, my needles, all the stuff that I'm going to be needing when I'm doing projects, whether it be ruler work or other projects. And that drawer slides out, and I can actually, I don't have mine under there today, but I can actually even take this drawer completely out, put my light stick underneath there, and I can have a light box on this whole end of the table. So there's a great big end there. So I've got my case for my light stick, but my light stick obviously is still in my travel box. So anyway, that gives us many uses for the table. Now, when I go to put my glider on, I want you to know that this glider could be plain in color, and it would be called a ruler work glider, and it would only have a small opening in it that would be the same size as our ruler foot. But I'm using it today with the what we call the grid glider, and I'm carefully lining this line across here up with the center of my needle. Now, before I put that all down, I want to use something to get my thread out from underneath there, because if I don't, then I tend to pull it, and obviously because it's thread, it's really strong, and it might just tear right there in my corner. So I want to get that thread out so I know where it's at. So you can see this is a cling. You can even hear it as I pull that up there. And when this quits clinging, you can just simply wipe it with a baby wipe and let it dry, and it will cling again. So this is one of those things that I have just used all the time anymore, even with regular sewing. And a lot of that has to do with all of these awesome lines we have. So if I had my regular foot on here and I'm doing 1/4 of an inch, I've got that line right there. So whether you do ruler work or not, this is a great asset to use with your machine. So flat surface, this is our mat. We want to keep that good and slick. So we use polish. So Steady has what's called table polish, and that table polish will allow you, most of the new tables come with a little sample of it. Otherwise, you're going to buy a bottle of it, and you just use about a dime shape on here. A dime size will be all you need. And you're just going to use the little cloth that comes with it. Here's one of my bottles, and it comes with this little cloth. And after you put that on there, you can actually polish the table and the mat all at the same time. Now, the mats come pre-polished. Sometimes the tables are polished. Sometimes they need it. You'll know, because if things don't move smoothly, then it needs to be polished. And that's always what people ask me, how often do you polish your table? And I say, oh, you'll know, because you can't get anything to move on it. So that is something else that you may not have known. I teach all over the country, and it's so interesting when I mention that. People say, I've had my table for 10 years and I never knew it needed polish. And I'm like, oh, you're going to be in love with that table then again, because of the fact that once you polish it, it just has such a better movement of all of your fabric for any and all of your needs. So some other things that I need to tell you about ruler work. First of all, we have ruler work feet. This particular machine is a Janome M7, and it came with this ruler work foot. If yours did not come with a ruler work foot, then you're going to want to ask the company that makes your machine, do you make a ruler work foot? And use those specific terms. Do not say free motion. And if they do make one for your machine, we at Sew Study recommend that you definitely purchase the one from that company, because it's made specific for your machine. Now, if your company doesn't make one, there's very few machines anymore that don't make one. But if yours happens to be one of those, or maybe you have an older machine and your company doesn't make it for that, then you just need to contact us or go online so that you can see the chart and see what you need for your machine. We have 4 feet that will fit over 7,000 sewing machines. There's only a very, very few that are not able to do ruler work. If you have a straight stitch machine and it has a straight up and down ankle and the needle is straight up and down, you're going to be fine. Now, there are a few that are slant that still we make a foot for that. And you just need to check with Sew Steady, because you're not going to want to miss out on doing ruler work. It's so much fun. Now, I must preface this by saying, I always tell my classes this: I am not a free motioner. I cannot do free motion. So I can remember way back when Stacy asked me to test out these rulers, I was like, oh, that's going to be fun. I can't even do free motion. And I will tell you, it only took me about 2 hours of playing by myself, not knowing anything, to find out that I really did enjoy ruler work. Now, some of the things you need to know besides the foot: we use what's called a 90 top stitch needle, a 90-14. Sometimes people go by the 14 instead of the 90, but we use a top stitch needle because that top stitch needle has a different opening. I've got a pretty good size needle here to show you, and you can see that it has more of an oval opening. This is the front of the needle, and this is what they call the groove. This in the back is called the scarf, and just a little needleology there for you. But this is what we're very much concerned with. We want that oval opening. It just does a much better job of allowing the thread to pass through that opening without shredding and making a mess with your ruler work. Because if you think about it, when you're sewing a garment, you are sewing, but you're also measuring and marking and pinning and trimming and all of that stuff. Whereas when we're doing ruler work, we set up and we sew. And you're doing a lot of fast sewing. Not that you have to stitch fast, but you're doing a lot of sewing over and over. And so that's why we like that. Now, regarding threads, we recommend that you use, to start with, 100% polyester, just because it is a little bit stronger and a little bit more forgiving than cotton. You're going to be able to use anything and everything you want, making sure you get your needle a compatible size. So when you start out with that 90 top stitch and that 40 weight polyester thread, and you can use that. Oh, pardon me, I have a kitty joining me. When you use that polyester thread in the top, you can use the same thread in the bobbin. And so that way you've got matching weights of thread. Doesn't necessarily have to be matching colors, but you will have matching weights of thread. And as you go forward, you're going to find that you're able to do some different things with your threads. And that's just part of the learning process, where you go and how much you get, what size you get, I should say. So anyway, we're going to be moving on. Guess we have a little bit of a focus issue right now. So I'm going to show you the ruler work foot that I will be using first. And that is one that has a large opening underneath here. And so with that, I don't have anything on the inside there. The one I'm going to be using in a moment is what we call our decorative thread foot. It looks like, comes in a package like this, and you can see that with your boxes, you got them so that they were colored. So mine is pink. You may have a different color, but that way you can kind of see that. I have another one right here that's just exactly like it, only it's a clear foot. So it's clear inside. So that's when we use our decorative threads. So I'm going to lay that aside for a second and tell you about setting up your machine. You need to lower your feed teeth. If you can't lower the feed teeth, you may have a little piece that fits over them. And that way you can do that. Now, there are some people, including Leonie West, who is the one that designed or really brought this to the table. And she actually sews with her feed teeth up. So it's totally up to you. I find that I like to have my feed teeth down because I can. And if you have a manual setting on that, you're going to need to either move a dial or pull a lever or something like that. Now, as far as the top, you shouldn't have to do a whole lot of changing of anything. On many machines, before there was actually a ruler work setting, all you needed to do was drop the feed teeth, use a straight stitch, and go. That was really all you had to do. Now, on my machine, if you watch right here, you're going to notice that when I go to set it, I just am touching a couple of buttons, and you can hear the clicks. My machine is now ready to go because this foot is made for this machine. Now, if you have what I would call a generic foot, which means it's one of those that comes from Sew Steady, it's not inferior in any way. It's just considered generic because it fits many different machines. As you can see on this one, there's a lot of places I can tighten my ankle screw to hold that in place. So this fits a lot of different machines. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But if you have one of those generic feet, the needle may not be centered. And we need to center the needle because the foot is a 1/2 inch from side to side. And we want it so that the needle is dead center or 1/4 inch from any side of that foot. So if by chance your machine has a needle that's off center, you're going to want to use your, most likely, your width button to move it over to get it in the dead center. And so that's pretty easy to do on most machines. If you have just a straight stitch machine, there's no moving of that, and it's probably going to be set right in the middle anyway. And it's really important to keep that consistent because as you'll see today, I'm going to be using what's called a spacing gauge. And when I use that spacing gauge, I need for the 1/4 inch to be able to be accurate to match everything up. Now, if I was using this foot, I would obviously take that one off and I would put this one on and I would leave it. I would make it thumb tight, but then loosen it up a little bit so this could still go up and down on that bar. I would set my sandwich, my fabric sandwich, which is my backing, my batting, and my top underneath there. And then I would use my button or my lever in the back to lower that foot. And when I lower that foot, I want it just to sit on the surface of the fabric. And when it does that, I'm going to take my screwdriver and tighten that up. And then I'm just going to see, can I still move that fabric underneath there? If I can't, I'm going to loosen the screw and raise the foot just a bit. And you'll see me do that in just a little while. So we've talked about needles, threads, setup, feet. One thing I haven't mentioned is tension because most likely you're not going to have to mess with tension. And I say mess with it because it always brings an awful look on people's faces when I mention tensions. And so the word was definitely picked correctly. Tension creates tension. So anyhow, if you've got a good straight stitch when you're sewing on a regular project, you're probably going to have fine tension, perfect tension when you go to sew on ruler work. Now, if by chance you don't, the first thing you want to check is to make sure your bobbin's threaded correctly and everything's in the tension as it's supposed to be. And you check the top thread to make sure it's good and make sure your machine is clean because that makes a big difference on ruler work. You want a good, clean machine. And if everything is okay there, then you may need to move the dial or change the number a little bit. And here's what I'm going to tell you. If you see bobbin thread coming to the top, that means the top tension is too tight. So you're going to loosen it, which usually means going to a lower number. If you see top thread on the bottom side, that means the top tension is too loose and you need to increase the number or turn the dial to tighten it up a little bit so that it pulls more to the top. And those two things are about all you need to remember. Now, I'm going to recommend in a little bit for our ruler work with decorative threads that you actually use what we call an auxiliary spool pen. And mine is big and you can't see it everywhere, but this is what it looks like. And this is the bottom. So I will be setting my decorative thread on it. Now, honestly, if you have a horizontal feed for your thread on the top all the time, I would get one of these and use this for definitely working with your ruler work. It makes the thread just relax, or not relax, but reel off of your spool so much smoother. So it's totally up to you, but if you have any issues that way, that might be a good way to resolve it. Now, my particular machine has a cone holder right on the machine. So I will be using that for my thread, and then I can use this that I just showed you for my decorative thread. So I think that pretty well covers all of the basics. Like I said, if you want to see everything and talk about all the different marking tools and all that, which I will mention here in a few minutes, but if you want to see all of that, go to the university. You can join for free. This is the Westalee University. So you're going to go to www.sewsteady.com, click on education, click on the university, join, and your first class you want to take, it's free. It's called Let's Get Started, and it will be a very good basic get started class. So I mentioned about those markers. One of the markers that I like to use as much as I possibly can is called the Clover Choco pen. Because when we go to mark things like this, we are going to be in little crevices, and we want to be able to go right in those crevices. And this will work. Now, I have replaced this chalk with an iron-off chalk. So my chalk, it's white, will iron off. So that's easy enough on any of your colors. Okay. Now, just one little hint about replacing this. I take my it's Pounce by Hansi. It's Pounce Iron Off Chalk. And I take all of that chalk and I put it in like a ketchup bottle. And not a ketchup bottle, a squeeze bottle like you would have at a picnic, the old style ketchup. And that way, when I take this off and empty it out, I can refill it very easily. So that's the way that you can do that. Now you can see I've got mine marked here already with a black pen. And that is a Frixon fine line marker. And so that Frixon fine line marker looks like the old school Flair pens, and it's a very fine line. Now, before you mark on fabric, and I've already done it to this, I sprayed this with starch. Now, this can be starch you get at Walmart. It can be Best Press. It can be Starch Savvy by June Taylor, which happens to be my favorite. And you press this, starch it, press it again, starch it, press it again. So you've got 2 layers of that starch on here. Now, just a word of caution, if you're using Best Press, make sure you put that best press in a spray bottle, one of those little misting bottles, so that it comes out so it spreads more evenly. So once you've done that, you've put a layer to create a barrier on your fabric. And now these lines, when I'm finished, will iron right off. So that's my little bit on how you can use markers. I have several when I'm at a show that I show that are white background, and I used a black marker on it, and I've never seen it come back, and it is safe to use. And that there's more information on that. Let's get started. So about our project today, I've got this all set up. I got my batting, I got my backing, I got my top that's got 2 layers sprayed on it, and I've already marked the center of this piece. Now, I think in your box, you got a circular crosshair square. I've got my great big one here. Did they get a circular crosshair square, Stacy?
They did. They got
Okay.
a 6.5-inch circle crosshair square.
Okay, perfect. So mine is a little bit larger here, you guys. I'm going to set this underneath it so that you can see it. But what you can do is, well, it would be a good idea if I turned it right side up. Yours is like this, only smaller. But what I did was I put this on here, and there is the 6-inch because I measured that blue square. So I know it's 6 inches. So I put the 6-inch here and here, and then I brought my finger right around down to there, and it's right at that point. And the same thing at the top. So I've got this number 6, the number 6, the number 6, the number 6. So I know now that that's center. Now I am definitely using my vision to see that that's straight up and down. You could obviously use a ruler to do that too, but you've got a crosshair, so you might as well do that. So what I did is I marked the center, and then I simply marked just these 4 because I was dividing this so that we could then create 4 stars. Okay, so I got 4 stars right there. And so since I divided that, all I wanted was kind of like a picture window thing there. So that's what I've got with that. Then in this block and in these blocks also, I will be using the little mini 5-point crosshair square. And so if this was 6 inches, that means these are 3 inches. So I'm just going to take the 3 that's on there and line that up with that block. Now I know there's nothing down here, but 3 points pretty much tells me I've got it right. And I did mine so that this is pointing up on the bottom, and my intentions are that it will be pointing down on the top. So those stars will meet just like these stars do. Okay, so let's go ahead and mark this. So I'm going to get that 3-inch lined up. I'm going to make sure I know exactly where the center is. But guess what? It's right here at the corner of this red block. That's not hard. So just make it right there. And then these lines I made solid. So then it tells you, and see how that's going to meet up right there too. And then it tells you to mark halfway in between. So I'm going to take this and rotate it, and this will give your vision a challenge. I'm just going to tell you that, because when you've got short lines and longer lines, and it's just different. So watch how I do this. I've got my point here. I set it on there, and I want to get this mark or that mark on top of where this opening is currently. So I'm just going to rotate that. And once I get that there, then I want to get this mark up on top of what's already marked, as well as that one, as well as this one. And that one's in the right place too. Now I'm going to mark these with what I would call a dotted line. So I've made it look different as I do 10 different lines, and I want to make sure that I have it so I can tell the difference. And if you've done it correctly, this will be right on that spot right there, right like that, right on that straight edge. Now, I did not find anywhere. I've read it when I'm awake. I've read it after I just woke up. I've read it after I'm dead asleep. I don't find anywhere where it tells us where this mark right here should be. Because to make a star, we have to come to that point out and around. So I decided it's 3/4 of an inch from the center. And you can see I've marked it over here. Okay, so how did I mark that? Well, I have a spacing gauge. Mine is blue. And I have actually etched 1/4 of an inch in on either side. So when I measure from here to that mark, it's 3/4. When I measure from here to that mark, it's 3/4. So it doesn't really matter which one of those I use. I'm going to put that little hash mark right on the center and mark at the end of the spacing gauge. Move to the next line and mark at the end of the spacing gauge. Now you may wonder how I did those lines. I used just a little, mine's like a box cutter, but an X-Acto knife will work. And it's just a little knife, and I used a straight edge. So I used my 12-inch arc because it already has a 1/4 inch line on it. And I laid this not on this table because I don't want to cut anything, but I laid this over on my cutting table and I lined that up and just etched it. I turned it around and I just etched that. And so that way I can use it either way. It's just a little hint for you so that you can not have to keep measuring with a long ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my markings here so we can get to the fun stuff. Now,
Hey, Donelle, we had a question come in.
yes.
Oh, yeah. It looks like someone may have answered it. Someone was asking what the name of the black pen was.
Oh, it is the Frixon by Pilot, Frixon Fine Liner.
Perfect.
And they come in a whole bunch of different colors, but I use black a lot, maybe dark purple, just simply because of the fact that I can use it on about any fabric. So anyway, I'm going to lay my circular crosshair over there and out of my way. When I stitch these today, I am going to just use a regular 40 weight thread so that you can see a little bit of how that's done. The star can be done with the decorative thread, but since this was a beginner type class, I wanted to make sure that everybody could do this. And I think that's going to be a little bit difficult with the decorative thread. So you can use the straight edge of the spinning wave that you got. The spinning wave is one that was in the box.
No, it is actually not in the box.
Oh, it's not.
No, this ended up being a bonus item. Sorry, guys. We focused the box on the feathers. So this is a bonus design. So it is something they can buy though, and it's pretty inexpensive. So we do have the class kit available, and if you're Elevate Club member, you get it 20% off. So,
All right. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad you're on here with me because I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So anyway, this is the spinning wave, and you can use the straight edge of that, or you can simply use the straight edge of what you probably already have in your basic set, which is your sampler set 1 and the 12-inch arc. So any straight-sided whatever you've got is going to work. You're not going to use the straight side of this unless you decide you want to put stable tape on it, which I don't see would make a whole lot of difference, but it's not a very long one anyway. So I am going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to stitch it. So I'm going to start in the center, and I am going to stitch these the solid lines all the way out to the edge and come back to the center, all the way out to the edge and back to the center, all the way out and back, all the way out and back, all the way out and back. No, stop, Donelle. Right here, I am not going to come back to the center. I am going to make my star. And that way I can make this all, this one over here, all in one pass. Now I have to keep talking to myself, so you'll hear me saying things a lot. First of all, when we're ruler working, we're going to take the needle down and up and pull up that bobbin thread. Now I'm going to tell you that we will have stitched over this so much that we will not have to do any tying of that thread. So it'll probably get cut off here rather soon. And that way you're going to be able to get it out of your way. Now I'm going to try and get you guys just a little closer in here. Gosh, it won't be long before the 4th of July is here. I can't believe we're already into May.
I know. I feel like this is kind of that red, white, and blue is always really appropriate as we get into Memorial Day and 4th of July and
yeah, it's
all
and
those
then,
fun.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you've got I can't even think about down into September, Labor Day.
Labor Day, yeah.
So you got all of that. You can use red, white, and blue. Now I'm going to turn this towards me. I've got this anchored right dead center. And to stitch out to here, I don't really have a line showing that stopping point. So I'm going to take my ruler here and just make sure I know where that is. That would have been bad had I gone too far on that. So I'm going to just use this because it's part of my sampler set. And now what I'm going to do, because that's 1/4 of an inch from the needle to the edge of my foot, I'm going to measure this the same way because I want this to stop right on that line. So I'm going to put it right where those come together. You can see there where they intersect, and I'm putting it so it matches straight up to the edge of my foot. So my ruler, excuse me, like that. So now if I've got everything set correctly, when I stitch out there, it will be perfect. So I'm stitching and I'm going right back to the center. Now, one thing you want to do is look at your center and make sure each time you get back there. If you don't, like I say, just kind of dance to where the center is, do a couple stitches and move it, whatever works for you. Now, I didn't say anything about stitch length because it's you. The stitch length is you. You're moving this back and forth. And so when I switch over here to this line, I'm going to be moving it out and I'm going to be moving it back in. So leave your machine set for a regular 2.2 or 2.4 stitch length, because you don't want to set it to 0 like some of the books will tell you, because our machines anymore, the newer ones, are so sophisticated that if you tell it 0, it's like she doesn't want to go anywhere. So I'm not going to give her any thread to go. And that's part of tension. So leave it for a normal stitch length. And then I set my speed to medium, and I turn my foot pedal around so that the back is closest to me. And then I simply floor it. So every time I am going to have the same speed. So I'm pretty much creating my own stitch regulator. So here we are at the end of this line again. You noticed I had it out there. I pushed it in. So I'm going to stitch out to here and stop and stitch back to the center. And I'm moving this mainly because I want y'all to be able to see it, but I also find it's easier for me to keep everything nice and straight and in the center. So like this is off right here, like one stitch. So I'm just going to roll my hand wheel towards me and put it right on there, because I only want one stitch. I don't want several stitches. I'm measuring again. I'm stitching out to this point and back. And then this time, I'm going to only stitch out and not back, because now I'm going to create my star. So I'm going to use that line, measuring that direction to allow for the foot. Line it up here with this point and stitch out to that. I had a lady once tell me her whole goal was to be able to get so good she did not have to use the spacing gauge. And I know I looked at her with a funny look like, why? That didn't make any sense. I got a helpmate right there with that spacing gauge. I can tell you back when I started, isn't our star looking good? When I got started, I had a spacing gauge, but I didn't know what it was for. Seriously, for like 6 months. I sure was glad when I learned what it was for. There it is. Now you could go around the star again if you wanted to. I think it's looking pretty good just like it is. So I'm going to make sure that I get right, but this is the one that I only stitched once. And I want to make sure I get right back on that line. So it's this line, Donelle. Yeah, that's right. Told you I talked to myself. Got that lined up. Or I'm getting it lined up. There we go. And we'll come right back to the center. Now, depending on what look you want or whatever, like I said, you could go around this outside star again. I'm going to show you how we secure these threads. So I'm going to pull that up, the needle up, take my foot up, pull away from my spot, pull that thread out long, and then put this needle right back in that center. And this time when I pull up, See, it already just jumped right out at me. That's my bobbin thread. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to cut that thread, cut my needle thread, and now I have my 2 starting threads and my 2 end threads. So let me show you a little trick here. And that is, I'm going to make a loop and pull the tails through. I don't need these tails to be 20 inches long, so I'm going to cut those off. And now I'm going to take a side threading needle, and I'm putting my point through the loop right back in the center. And when I pull this down, I'm in control of where I make my knot. So now I'm just going to pull that out, and my knot is like 1/4 of an inch away from the surface of my fabric. And then I just thread all those threads through, and I'm going to tuck this or bury it right down underneath. Now, when you do this, if you have a colored thread trying to bury it behind a white fabric, make sure you get it in between and down in your batting. Now, there's just a little tiny knot there, and I just now pulled it right through. Squeeze this up a little bit and trim those threads, and that tail went right back down in there. I didn't have to thread the needle, and I pulled 4 threads through at one time. Now, since that went so fast, I'm going to do the other one because I want you to see how they come together. You're going to be doing 4 of these. So remember, I started in the center. So I'm going to put my foot down first. I'm going to let that get targeted right in the middle there. And then I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to pull it up to get my bobbin thread to the top. Remind me when we get this one done, I'll show you what the back looks like. And I'm putting that needle back down in. And once you get the hang of this, get the flow going, it just goes really quickly. This becomes, I wish I was like Inspector Gadget so I could say my finger was 1/4 of an inch apart or whatever. It would make it so easy. Oops, there's my one I got to mark. So we just got to make sure we know where this side ends. I don't know what I would do if I had not discovered the way I can use markers like that. It would have just taken me forever to do anything because I don't like to have to make it difficult. So we're going to do this one first and go right back to the center. Measure. Whoa, that's not in the center. There we go. Did you see how I just kind of one stitched it? That was by pressing my foot control. It's always amazing because this one's off too. Although it looked like I went right to the center. Get those threads out of the way. And then this last one, remember, I'm only going to do 1 stitch out and then make my star. Now, I can honestly tell you if I'd have just came in here today and looked at the directions and said, I'll just do whatever the directions say, I would have been somewhat lost. you got to kind of read your directions and then think on it. How do I want to do this so I only have to start and stop with one time, if at all possible? And that's why you want to look through things before you get started with them. Now I've got my iron on, and as soon as I do this, I'm going to go iron these lines out because they always look so much nicer without that. And who would have guessed that we could do all this with our 5-point grid?
Yeah, it is fun to see that you can do, some of these basic shapes and you don't technically need a ruler to do it. Like, we obviously have a lot of star ruler options in in our Westalee Design line, but it's kind of fun to know, hey, I can make a star with just my straight ruler.
Exactly.
And you're going to get real good with that spacing gauge if you're using it that frequently.
Exactly. And that's why I said I almost wish it was part of my hand,
Yeah.
So I'm pulling this thread out again. Now, when I go mark this, it may take a couple of the markings off for the other stars, but I can always put them back on. So I've cut my bobbin thread. I've cut my top thread. I've got these. I'm going to make that loop and pull it through. Well, I am. There we go. And I don't need all of this length. So let's cut those off. I have a little magnet right up here above my machine that's on my light bar. And I've got my needle right hooked to that magnet. And I use it so much, it would seem crazy to have it anywhere else. So what I'm doing, I'm going to pull this up so you can see it maybe a little closer. Right here, I'm going right in beside where that is and pushing that through. Oops, I felt it come through the back, so I don't want that. And there is what's called a needle grabber, or you can use a hemostat or something like that if you can't get a hold of it. There's the tails coming through, and one little more pull, and that knot just pops right in there. So let me just go right over here and press that real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see what they look like now without those black lines. And then I want to flip it over so that you can see what it looks like on the back. So back's as neat as the front, and that's what you want. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up for the decorative stitching. So we're going to do the decorative stitching on this side. And let me find that foot again. There it is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my screwdriver and take this off. I'm going to use the same bobbin thread that I used. And this is what I mean by putting it on so it's like thumb tight, and then just loosen it so it's up and down, it'll work. And what I do is I push it all the way down. I set my foot down, and if you watch, this will just somewhat adjust to, it can't go any farther. So it's adjusting itself. And then I tighten it up and I can still move that. Now, I'm going to put my foot down here in one of those great little openings for my drawer. We're not going to start out right on this because you want to practice this just a little bit before you just jump right onto the real thing. So I'm going to get us set up, and then I'll get a scrap of fabric here so that we can try it. Now I'm going to take out the thread that I have for the top, and I'm going to put in a thread that is called Invisifill. It's a Wonderfill thread, and I have already tested this stuff out, and I absolutely love it because it really is pretty much invisible. So it's going to work to couch our thread or our yarn, whatever you want to use. And when you thread your machine, always hold on with your right hand while you're going through the tension disc, which you should only thread with the foot up because that opens up the tension disc, so that's in there. I had a lady in class just about a month ago that she was threading every time with her foot up or foot down, and she had all kinds of issues. And I said to her, I said, "Are you threading with your foot up or down?" And she said, "Down. I don't need to bring it up. It's ruler work." I said, "Well, with threading, you definitely need to bring it up so you open up the tension disc." So that is a definite gotta do it. Now I've got my thread through there.
So we just had a good question come in. Someone
Sure.
said, why did she change the foot?
I changed the foot because I'm doing what's called couching of thread. And we have a foot now that has a hole in it. And you can see it will be facing this way. And you can see that opening there. So what I'm going to do, and as I said before, I totally recommend that you do this also. And that is get an auxiliary spool pin, because I'm setting this, and I can remember when I was showing this to, I think it was the educators one time, Stacy, and a couple of them said, great idea. They had tried it. And, you know, I've had people tell me they put this thread on a bobbin and put it on a necklace and stick it around their neck and all kinds of things. But if you don't mind my mess, I'm going to pull it back and show you. Mine is sitting right there. This is the top of it. And then down here is the bottom. And the thread that I'm going to be using is, again, from Wonderfill, I believe. I'm not sure, Stacy. Yep, Wonderfill Dazzle. And you can see it right here. It's got a little bit of a dazzle, which is a little bit of a metallic thread. So that's sitting on that spool, and I am putting it through. And that way, all I have to do is put it through this opening right there. And when you're doing any kind of couching like this, you have to keep that thread in front. So I can't do any backward stitching. If I would need to back stitch, well, go in the reverse, I should say, then I would need to turn everything around so I can do that. because it's just not going to work any other way. Now, as I said, I want to get a little scrap down here, and we're going to practice on that. Stacy, does this fabric look familiar?
We've been playing a lot with that over the last 5 years.
5 years. Oh. All right, so I am going to, I've got a piece of batting here, and I'm going to put that so that I'm layering this together, because you always want to practice on a similar, on as close as you can get is to the same. So I've got the same batting that I've got there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that back. I'm going to put my foot down. And believe it or not, as if I don't have enough going on, I'm going to bring up that bobbin thread. So I've got needle down, needle up, and pull up your foot. And I can still use this to floss underneath there to bring up that bobbin thread. And you're thinking, how in the world am I going to do all of this when you can, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to set this back down, and I need to set my machine for a zigzag stitch. And when I'm doing this, I cannot do that on my particular ruler work setting. It won't let me do, you can probably hear the beeping saying, no, 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 you're not going to do that. Can't do it. So I need to go into my settings, and I'm going to basically, yeah, it's so funny because it always tells me get the proper foot, yada, yada, yada. And so I am going to go ahead and set for a narrow zigzag. You can hear it beeping. I'm going down, 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 down. And give it a test. So foot down, and you'll see it's going to do just a little zigzag, and I'm just letting it pull through there. And I'm not using a ruler at this point. I'm just testing this. Okay. Now I'm going to pull it around here so you can see it. And I need to raise my foot because I can't turn that. Good indication that it's too low. And you probably saw it just kind of jump up because it knows it's too low, and it just kind of helps you out. Oh, much easier. Okay, you can see that that moved much easier. So here's what I've got. Okay, that's tacked down because it's a narrow zigzag going over it. And you cannot see that on the back. You can see a little bit of a zigzag right there, but you really can't see that thread on the top of this. Now, it's on the spool, it looks like a light gray, but pretty much it's, when it gets out by itself, it's clear. This is it right here, and you can hardly tell that it's there. So we've got that set up, and once you've got it set up, don't cut close to, like I wouldn't touch the cutter at this point. I'm going to raise up my needle, I'm going to raise up my foot, and I'm going to pull all of it out because I've got bobbin thread there, I've got top thread, and I've also got my couching thread. So I'm going to cut that now because, yeah, it's working. So for those of you that want to know, interestingly enough, numbers won't be the same on every machine, that's for sure. But mine is set at 1.5 width and 1.5 length. And that's on my Janome M7. Now, I also have a 9480, and I'm not sure. I've not tried it on that one yet. I don't know if it would be the same setting or not. So just as a matter of information, I can't answer that part of it right now. All right. So when you look at the square that you have, there's a gray area out here. That's just kind of your margin. So when this is finished, you can either determine, if I bind this, am I going to bind it so that that's where the binding ends? So out here, I'm going to have fabric to actually use for my binding. But since we have what we call a margin all the way around, you could actually put these squares together. You could get multiple squares and put them together using the quilt as you go method. I'm just going to be making this one square. I'm going to use my margin as my get my act together point. So in other words, when I stop, I'll stop out here in the margin. And if I have threads like any of this decorative thread out there, it won't matter because it's going to get covered up by my binding. So it means I don't have to bury it or anything like that. So when I look at my design here, let's look at this like this, because we're going to be stitching vertical. Because of the way this works, I have to have this right in front. So we're going to be stitching vertical. So we are going to have it so these will be short lines in here. Let's look at the front so that you can see it better. There'll be short lines in there and then long lines down here. Now, interestingly enough, this shows starting at the bottom and working your way up. I actually like to start at the top and work my way down. So it's totally up to you, okay? So I'm going to draw a few more lines on here. So I'm going to get a straight edge. And there's my line. Now let's find that ruler. Yeah, let's find that ruler. Here it is. So when we do this, we are going to probably want these to line up. So find a way to keep that straight so that they do line up. This right here is my starting or stopping point. I'm going to make it my starting point, and my stopping point is going to be out here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to find see, I've got a line right there, which is at that point right there, because I need something. Now, if I want this to come up and actually touch that line, I would need to draw another line 1/4 of an inch away there. But I don't think I want it to touch, so I'm just going to use this top line, or the line closest to my curve. And I'm going to put that right like that. I'm going to come in here. I'm right on that blue edge right there. So needle down, needle up. And I'm going to do my swiping underneath to get my bobbin thread up. Make sure I got all 3 threads. The one being so clear I don't even see it. Where is it? There it is. All right. Foot back down, but not needle yet, because I want to get right in that same spot. So now I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to make sure I've got some slack in my thread, so it's laying right here. Actually, I've got one arm around each side of my, you can see my thread moving when I move that. And I have to keep this in front. So this is lined up. Remember, I said this is my margin. Doesn't really matter what happens out there. So I'm putting my needle up, bringing my foot up, and I'm going to leave this long for now. I'm going to reach under here and cut for now. And then this one down here, see, it's right where it needs to be. And I pulled it up. So what you can do is it takes a larger needle. So you're going to have to find something like this needle that's got a big eye in it. I'm doing the same thing as I did before. And if you pull really tight, you'll get a small a knot that you can deal with. But this needle right here is going to be difficult. It's not a side thread. Oh, yeah, it is. Perfect. Oh, yeah. It doesn't take much to excite me, you guys. So make sure I got all of them in there. I think I do. And then we're going to go right there, right underneath. Pull them through. I guess I got one more.
Donelle, there was a question earlier about which of your self-threading needles you're using.
I am using the ones, let's see if I got a packet here. They're just called side threading needles, and I don't have the packet here. Wait a minute, maybe I do. Hang on. No, I don't. They are available on my website, though.
Okay.
I'll tell that. So I want you to see that that knot went right in there, and all we have is that little spot. I'm going to pull it up, cut it so it goes right back in. So now you've got one of those done. And you're probably thinking, I can't do that. I just don't think I can. Yeah, I thought that too. It's not true. You can. So we're going to put this back in through there so that it's long enough to get a hold of and show you how easy it is to line these things up. So there it went. Okay. So now this was lined up on this very first line. Okay. And there's a line right there. So I can start in there. I think I started like this, but start down here because you got a line that can go on. And this was lined up on the line. So it's 1/4 of an inch away. Now, I don't want to make these 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. I'm going to come down 2 lines, actually 3, so that they are 3/4 of an inch apart. So there's the first line I used. And then I went 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So now this will be right in here. That line goes right across there. set the foot down, get it in where you need it to be, needle down, needle up, pull up, and there's my thread that I want to come up through here. So you got to be patient with this because the thread that you can hardly see, you want it to come up. There we are. Oh, come on. Where we go? It was way short for some reason. Foot back down, away from your template. Pull it into where you want it to start. And remember, I went up 3/4. So now that I've got all 3 threads right there, just keeping this in front. Look at that, you guys. Is that so much fun or what? And I have to tell you, if Stacy hadn't forced me to try this, I probably would never have fallen in love with it. And it makes it so much fun to be able to embellish like this. So I'm just going to leave this out here out of the way. I can sit and bury those at a later point in time. And we're going to move down again, but I want to have a line because I'm not going into that star. And basically I just connected the 2 blue spots. So whenever you're putting your decorative thread in, remember you've got to always have it down in through that opening. So there's my decorative thread. Got to get my template and put it on the line. And you may decide, I think I want, because it was right now, as you can see, I ran out of these lines because I was on this line to make that. So what I need to do now is to figure out exactly how far I have to go down there. So since this is 3/4 right there, and if you remember, I've got that marking on my little template here, or on my spacing gauge. I'm just going to come down here and mark. And mark again and again. And I don't need to mark any more at this point because these are going to go a long ways across there. Okay, so that's where our needle will go. So the easiest way now is to simply put your needle down in that spot, bring up your thread, came up easy that time. And once you've got that set, it's just a matter of putting this on with that line right on that line. Everything stayed threaded, so all I need to do is go again to the next dot. And if just a little bit of encouragement here, if you can't see that dot through there, just take a ruler and make that line longer so you know where this line and that line is. Put that down, and now I can tell exactly where it's going to be. Pull up that bobbin thread. Get our ruler. Put it right in that spot. Now I'm going to show you something that might happen to you and you don't worry about it. Right there is a longer stitch that didn't catch it. But if I hadn't pointed it out to you, you would have never known it. Don't worry about that. It's not going to be a problem. Now, we're going to go over here. I will need to do 4 rows up there, but I'm going to go ahead, pull that out of the way so that we can get our measuring so we can go all the way across here. So it depends on this right here. So the first one is 1/4 inch down from that line right there. So here we are at this point. I'm going to line this up and draw that line. And so then we are 3/4 of an inch. So there's 3/4. Make sure I'm right. Yep. And there's 3/4. 3/4. Yep, it came out the same. So then this line here is going to be right there. So we are going to be starting clear out here. So I'm going to make this line first. Whew, wait a minute, Donelle. Here we go. Ignore that line right there, okay? Because it has to meet up with this one right here. So that's where it's at over there. So we are going to start clear out there and go clear across. So right out here, foot down, needle up, and bring up that bobbin thread. Oh my gosh, you guys. Is it coming or not? There we go. Okay, so foot down, needle down. So now, not only do we know where to start, we got to figure out, because we're trying to line these things up. Remember that? So I am lining it up clear down here. Another good reason to have a nice flat surface. So this would be a spot right there. That's pretty random, but I'm just doing that so we know out here is going to be a divot, which is the same as that. So if we were there, it looks to be Oh, guys, this is scaring me. Is that really where I want it? I don't think so, Donelle. Pull that up and get that out. Uh-oh. I don't want my thread up. All right. So let's back up and make this line longer. Yes, I'm kind of confused.
All right, so we're not scared anymore?
No, we're not scared, but we're just confused here. So what I want to show you, I had to take it out to do this. So we have to get this so that these are still going to be going that way. Now, one thing you could do would be turn everything around and start at this end. I can't stitch that way, you guys. I just have to admit, I cannot stitch that way. So what I need to do then is I've got to figure out where this is going across here and where it's going to need to be. Every time I pick it up, I think, why did you pick that up? Okay. So that's going to be in the divot there. And I hope that this works out, Stacy. I think it will. So what I'm going to do is put that first line right on that line and come out here. Uh-oh. So that's what happens sometimes. Your needle will split your thread. So all you have to do is just get that pulled through and cut and pull this back through and start it again. So my needle thread is still there, but my needle split my thread.
Yeah, a good question came in that I thought was interesting, Donelle.
Yeah.
Someone said, could you start with the full length lines and then work your way back
You can.
down?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the way your instructions are written. So, you know, it either way, I think it'll work.
The other thing that I was curious about is there any way to kind of move the decorative thread out of the way and maybe instead of breaking thread every time, like stitching down the line to start the next line?
So go forward and back?
Yeah, just so you're not having to, like, you kind of push it out of the way and then you don't have to like break thread.
So let's try it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give it a try here. Okay. Okay, so the question is, first of all, we did get it lined up, but I think I'm 1/4 of an inch too far down, but I'm not going to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and go down what appears to be 3/4 of an inch. I will measure it, but in order to get back this way, I have to turn it around. I don't have an option because it has to be in front. Okay, so let's see what we got here. This should be good. And so see, this is what you got to do, and I'm just not very good at that, but we'll give it a try. Keep your thread out from underneath there. Whoa, 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 Donelle. I get to go and I didn't even see him at the end. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Thinking
You're
I'm
having
gonna
fun, yeah.
And you guys will notice that it didn't cause any trouble. Nothing's stuck back there, and there's not a big knot or anything.
I also like seeing that you kind of have that decorative threads that's hanging out in the slot, and you're not like needing to hold on to it the whole time.
Nope.
That's good. So I was going to ask if there's any chance that you could raise the camera just slightly because the foot is almost out of the view. There you go. That's
Sure.
great.
Sorry, I was showing you that in. Now, I think we're going to lose most everything here, but I still...
Oh, yeah, with the spacing.
Yeah, I don't know that because I think we'll just have... I think I can do it. I can do it. Let's see what I got here. Well, it's going to be close, but that is just the edge. So I think that I will still like to have it like that. So here we go. Because the gray is where the project ends, but not the fabric. All right. So now what I'm going to do, because I am at the very end, and this is going to get covered up with binding, I'm just going to take all of this. Oh, my scissors fell behind my machine. So yeah, you can do that. So you can go from one end to the other. In here, you obviously can't. So these three are going to have to be hidden. These can all just get cut off over here because they're going to be in the binding. Now, seriously, I've probably gone a little bit too far for my binding, so I might have to take a few stitches out. I mean, I definitely might have to do that. So this one over here can just get cut off. So that's what that's going to look like.
Oh, I love it. It's so pretty.
Yeah. And I'll get these buried. And the next time you see this, Stacy, hopefully it'll be done. And you can see what it looks like on the back. There's nothing offensive of this. It's just a little zigzag instead of straight stitch.
So fun.
So,
and then you could probably work yourself down on the other side.
Yeah.
And kind of do both. Yeah.
And
that's great.
That way for this, it'll even be kind of a teaching project, so you can see which way would be easier
exactly
for you to do. So So yeah, so if you can envision this down across here, I'm going to just kind of fake this a little bit, but this would be a binding right across there. So that lowest right here is going to be right up against the edge of my binding. So yeah, so that's a fun project, you guys. And like I said, draw yourself little 3-inch squares and practice first. We know they're 3-inch squares, so just practice making your stars in there. And one thing I will tell you guys, don't be too critical of yourselves when you're first learning something. Also, when you're first starting out working with decorative thread, it's not, I mean, it's a whole lot easier if you relax and don't get so uptight about all of this. And I will tell you, having this auxiliary spool pin where my thread is, and I'll set it back here so you can see it again, is definitely a plus. So that's where my thread's set. It goes clear up here, way out of your vision, through that. There's a whole a loop up there, and then comes back down here, and it actually sits right in front of me. And you know, it just makes it so much easier because I don't have to control it. I've seen where people have taken this thread and they have put it, it got caught around my camera here. They have put it in through straws and taped stuff to the front of their machine. And you just want it loose out here in front so it can do what it needs to do and follow the template so that it can follow that template easily. So it's been fun, you guys. So Stacy, any other questions that anyone had? Or
You know, I just was reading a question here. It says, "What's the decorative thread that you use today called?"
this is Wonderfill Dazzle. There's 200 yards on there.
So that's not the exact size that was in the box, but it is in the box. So
Okay.
if you are an Elevate Box member, we just gave Donelle a little extra because we knew she was going to be doing some demos and some classes. So we thought she needed a bigger spool, guys.
Okay.
But but everyone, you did get a 4-pack of thread in your box this time. So if you are an Elevate Box Club member, you got a 4-pack of thread. One of those is that Silver Dazzle. The other is the Invisa line, which is the thread that she's using in the top thread, and then the Deco Bob. So you did get all 3 of those to be able to use and enjoy the decorative thread option today. Another comment came in regards to I think that there was a question on put the decorative thread in the bobbin. Oh,
No.
no.
Decorative thread. It's just I'm using the same thread in the bobbin that I did for doing my ruler work without.
Yeah. Oh, so she said that she used to have to put decorative thread in the bobbin.
Oh.
So yeah, that would be very challenging, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the tension issues you'd get into.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they used that, and you just totally bypass the tension, which meant the bobbin down there would have spring. It would have, it would go farther than it should, and then flash back. And oh my gosh, it was awful.
So a good question came in earlier. Well, someone just said the box. So we have an Elevate subscription box club that we send out every quarter that has like over $200 in product in it. And this quarter we included the decorative thread ruler foot and a whole bunch of thread and then a couple different templates. And we're focusing each quarter on a different block. So this quarter we're focused on the Arrow block. And so that's why this design is kind of, got some fun little Arrow block design aspects to it. And it makes a really fun quilt. And then we give you a whole bunch of quilt designs that are really targeting that type of quilt block. And so the other question that came in, though, that I wanted to address is is there just a really simple tutorial on how to use the decorative thread ruler foot? And so on the decorative thread ruler foot page on our website, if you just type in decorative thread in the search bar, you'll find it. There is a video by Leonie when she released this product that teaches you all about the decorative thread ruler foot. It talks to you about different types of thread and all the different things that you can do and different settings, and really lays out kind of the instructions that are included with the foot. So if you haven't seen that already, I would definitely encourage you to check that out. I'm going to go ahead and post as another link here, just so you have that, because it is a really helpful video. And it's, while obviously we've got some amazing educators that are having fun with this foot and showing you how to use it, kind of getting just like the nuts and bolts of the foot itself and, different things you can do with it is great. And that's what this video is all about. So I'll post that video for everyone as well. There is a discount for the Wave template if you're an Elevate Box Club member. Everyone that's an Elevate Box member, you get 20% off of the highlighted tools for the quarter. And so we are giving you that as an option. That's going to be a discount code that's found inside of your quarterly catalog, right at the top of every page. So you should see it pretty easily inside of your box. If you're not an Elevate Box Club member, there is not an additional discount for the Wave template this week. But definitely, stay tuned for an opportunity in the future. So I think that's all the questions. I know for a fact, Donelle, that everybody absolutely loved having you back doing a live today. So stay tuned, because we've got Donelle coming on live with us again in 3 weeks. So we'll, and then she's got another class coming up, I think in June, where she's going to dive into ribbon.
Yeah, and we've got, obviously you guys can join us for the circle projects too.
Oh, yes, please do. Donelle has an amazing Circle Society class that she's doing I think every other month.
Every other month.
And this last one, she used this really cool needle option, and someone posted it in Westalee by me, but they actually did crochet on the outside of her circle project, which looked incredible. I now feel like I want to learn how to do crochet.
Me too.
No, we can't do that. We got to focus on quilting and templates, Donelle.
I know.
But it was actually a really cool way to kind of incorporate that into a quilting project. So, so yeah, check out Donelle's Circle Society class. She's highlighting a new one this month, and then the class will actually be live next month. So stay tuned for that as well. So I think that's all we've got for everyone today, Donelle. I don't see any other questions coming through here, but yeah, we definitely loved being able to show off a little bit of that ruler work for beginners, and of course, be able to show how to use that decorative thread ruler foot and that template class. Someone asked if you did Paducah this year, and no, Donelle was not able to attend Paducah this year. We did have some amazing educators there, but we were not able to have our Westalee rulers really represented in a booth this year, unfortunately.
So that's why you guys need to stay tuned with us on the So Steady site.
Yeah, stay tuned. We've got all kinds of education happening all week long, every week. Amazing educators. We've got Donelle, we've got Kathy, we've got Nan, Melissa was yesterday. We've got all kinds of fun stuff. Pam is tomorrow. Pam's going to be doing another class that's tied into your Elevate box. If you guys have that crosshair square, she's doing a bunch with the crosshair square tomorrow. So stay tuned for that education as well, and more to come. So thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye, everyone.